DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Wedding Chat with Dave Ternier and Jeremy Brech.
Hey, we were just discussing, this is probably going to be the most unwedding chatted wedding chat we'll probably have. it's still
maybe not. I mean, I guess the part that's unwedding is that I'm in a vehicle.
Yeah. Well, it's better than being outside and trying to go for a jog and do this.
You know, this is live when I'm in a vehicle. Because if we pre-recorded it, it could have been nice offices, what have you. Anyway, good evening, everyone. I'm Dave.
I'm Jeremy. How are you? How are you, Dave?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
Good. So you are currently in your vehicle because you are doing a planning meeting for an event that you have going on tomorrow, from what I understood. Is that correct?
Rehearsals were tonight. So planning is more or less done, although one performer pulled out tonight. So we certainly had to do some planning to fill that placement. Kudos to the staff that my buddy Brian has from Expressions Entertainment. Expressions is providing all the audio video for this event, and I'm the onstage host.
Cool.
So one of his guys stepped up and said, "What? One of your lip sync battle contestants dropped out? I can do something." I'm like, "Wait, what?"
He just has that on the back burner, or what?
Yeah, Brian has this amazing guy named Jim, and I knew this too. I'd forgotten all about it. Jim is about as white can be, but nobody can do Rapper's Delight like Jim can.
As white as can be. You guys are in Canada. You have winter 11 months out of the year. I mean, it's of course to be as white can be.
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Rapper's Delight, huh?
He's doing Rapper's Delight, so we quickly cut a 2-minute edit of the song to 2 minutes 16 seconds, I think, because we're cutting all the edits for all the performers tomorrow night to that 2.5 minute mark. And for anybody that's unsure what I'm talking about, Jeremy knows, but I'm hosting a lip sync battle in support of the United Way tomorrow night. So we have the staff of different banks taking on each other in battles. We have local radio stations taking on someone. We have a local wedding officiant taking on a local decorating company. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Very cool.
And you have a number that you have prepared?
Madonna. Nobody will ever think of Madonna's Like a Prayer the same ever again.
No, they won't. Are you going to wear the cones and everything?
I am not wearing anything. DJ tip, if you're hosting something like this, you don't want to upstage
Hold on. You say you're not wearing anything, but yet you don't want to upstage the performers? To me, I think you're probably going to make a statement. People are going to remember your performance.
But you know what, Jeremy? This is Canada. We're used to not wearing anything where it's winter 11 months of the year. Anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm going to cold open the show before I do a welcome, before I do anything. Basically, Brian has got this whole thing designed where exactly 1 minute before showtime, this countdown is going to go on screen and the lights will start moving around the room. And then when it hits 0, the room will black out. And then the opening of like a prayer will start playing, and I'm gonna slowly just walk up onto the middle of the stage, and then when the vocal hits, he's gonna spotlight the stage, and my head's gonna come up, and life is a man. It's gonna be great.
So good. Very cool.
Yeah.
So you were in your final stages, and I think this kind of segues into what our topic is here tonight. You were saying just hours ago, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, this is going to happen how we want it to happen, and not how it should happen.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, because I don't know anything about what you were talking about. You just kind of teased
Right.
a little bit. So
the venue we're at, it's a great place. They've got some really great staff, and the lady that, you know, the banquet manager, the event manager, she's really fantastic to deal with. But as I arrived this afternoon, taking a look at how the room was laid out and what have you, and I mean, kudos to Bill Herman, entertainment experience, and all the other influences in my life. But now when I walk into a room, I look at everything completely differently than I used to. And I walk in and I'm looking for the sight lines of the guests. So will all the guests from where they're seated be able to see the stage really, really well? So this is about 160 people going to be at this event tomorrow night. First annual, so it's a little smaller than we wanted. And they've got, you know, a row of 6 or 7 round tables, and then another row, and then another row. The problem is that when you have 6 or 7 tables in one row, the people on the far side are like really off to the side of the stage.
yeah,
And I'm like, look, we're only 3 rows deep. Let's take some of those outside ones from the edge and move them to the back and create a 4th row, because they'll be much closer and get a way better view. Like just so much better. So then we get to talking about some of the VIP placement tables, and they don't want to move one of the tables that's at the end because it's a VIP table, and that it was sold as a front row. I'm like, okay, I get that, and okay, we should change the wording next year, but they have a crappy spot where they're at. Okay, because
premium seating and not considered a front row.
Right, and I suggested those exact words. Anyway, you know, we discussed a little bit. We're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The venue had issue with, well, the VIP tables, though, they get waited on. They get special service from our staff. They get waited on. They get drinks brought to them, whereas the regular tables don't. And you know, if we put them kind of in the second row in the middle of it, the regular, you know, my staff's not gonna. That's gonna be really tough for my staff, and yada yada yada. I'm like, but it'll be best for the guests. Let's figure this out.
Yeah. If you want repeat customers, take care of them so they show up next year.
Yeah. So you know, there were a couple tense moments because you know, the woman wasn't just, you know, she probably felt like I was pushing her around a little bit, and I was pushing a little bit, and I do that because I am hired to help my clients produce exceptional events, and I would hope that everybody here watching, you know, maybe you're not taking ownership of that idea right now, but I hope that's something we can all work towards, because we're the people who understand entertainment far better than a venue manager does, far better than a decorator does, far better than the caterer does. And if you're not bringing that perspective, who is?
Yeah.
Because your client certainly isn't. They've hired you to do what you do. You know, if they could do what you do, they wouldn't have hired you. So yeah, you know, so that was, and in the end, you know, we got things figured out, and, you know, came around and we got things, you know, done appropriately. And I know now that the experience for the guests is going to be that much better. So I mean, that's obviously not a wedding example, but I mean, when it comes to dance floor placement, when it comes to whatever, we should be involved in that.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I really focus on when I sit down with couples is, you know, I talk about, we don't just show up. We will help you stage the room. We'll help you figure out how the room's going to flow the best. How, when people come in, what's the first thing that they're going to see? And I always talk about in my lighting seminars is, if you're going to do a monogram, put it in a place that is going to create a visual impact right off the bat. So, and I'm not just talking lighting, but when we talk dance floor as well. My wedding this last weekend. Did you have a wedding this last weekend?
No, I did not. I had the weekend off.
So I had a wedding this last weekend, and it's a venue that I'm pretty positive on placement and how things can and should be done. But they had never done it that way. And you know, because they had a new person in there since the last couple of them that I had done like this. And I always tell the bride and groom, I said, you know, I love to have the dance floor in the center of the room. And, you know, right away, a venue is thinking, oh, okay, so he wants to be the show. He wants to be the center of the room, this type of thing. But really it comes down to, how can I interact with the entire room? And when the dance floor is in the center, when you are more approachable by the head table, to the head table, and close to the head table, it makes it a lot easier. It makes it so much more easier to communicate, to take care of the flow of things. And you know what? We had to tear down tables no matter where we were set up at. So why not take down tables in the center of the room when we start a dance? So, I mean, I just felt like the communication that I gave to the bride and groom, it's not that they didn't communicate that, because they were completely on my side of it. But the venue basically said, well, we can't do it that way, or it doesn't work well that way. I'm just thinking, bull crap. I know it works well that way because I've done it that way, and it controls the room perfectly. I can talk in one spot and fill an entire room, as opposed to being over on this side of the room and hoping the sound and hoping that the attention is grabbed over on the far side of the room as well.
Yeah.
And I noticed this when, again, we got put over on the far side. And I noticed this when I went to go do like the welcome. I owned this side of the room. I owned the middle side of the room. And I still had a couple people over on this side of the room that were just, having conversations and things like that. And me as an MC, I will wait until that room is dead silent before I start talking and do my welcome. So yeah, it might have taken a little bit longer, but again, it comes down to, I need the room set up in a specific way so I can manage your room correctly. And that's why people hire me, because I can have that control and I do have that command.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with all those points. And I think for those who maybe do have the experience of getting stuck in the corner, so to speak, from time to time, I think it's probably a confidence thing. I mean, Jeremy and I have, we've just plenty of experiences and examples and photographs of the events that we've been at that we can show people and go, here's why. I think a few other reasons that, I give to my brides and grooms quite often as well is, you're spending a lot of money most of the time on a head table, making it look beautiful, probably a big backdrop, whatever. Why lose that focal point the moment the dance starts? I don't get it.
Right.
I'll tell people as well, when your first dance is taking place, do you want your first dance and those photographs taken, with this weird off in the corner thing? Or do you want it in the middle of the room so that your photographer gets these spectacular shots with the guests around, with mom and dad looking on from their table, with, again, all the money you spent on that head table in the background, get the catering staff to tidy it up a little bit if that head table looks a little messy now, or if there's a lot of bottles sitting around. I mean, it makes more efficient use of the dollars they've spent.
And that's the same thing with the cake. I hate when people put the cake way over in the corner of the room or over on the other side. I basically explain to people that you're going to spend hundreds of dollars on this cake. Make it a focal point, light it up if you want to. But make it a statement, because when that cake cutting moment happens, anybody who's gone through Marbella Silver, they understand how important that moment is. They understand how important that moment is to people who are watching and being a part of that moment.
Right.
You'd be amazed how, again, I mean, my DJ booth is over here. My cake is way over on the other side of the room. Okay, that's fine. But the cake wouldn't have been as far if my DJ setup was in the middle of the room like I originally requested. Now everybody can hear me clearly. So I have, basically sound delays as the sound is carrying all the way to the other side of the room. So it's really awkward as an MC. You know what it's like. You're talking and all of a sudden you hear yourself and you're like, okay, do I need to slow down now that I'm talking like this? There's a lot of things that as an MC, you really have to keep in mind. How clear am I to the people on my side of the room? How clear am I to the people, or how loud am I to the people who are by my speakers? And, so I always encourage people, if you don't have any tables that are going on the dance floor, I always recommend putting your cake on the center of the dance floor. Make that a main focal point. So that way, when that cake cutting moment happens, and you're going through an extended cake cutting, you can really capture people and everybody can see that. I love when people, as you're going through the story and the history and the routine of what's going on with the cake cutting, I love watching people come up to the cake and actually, engaging in the moment and being with that. It's really cool knowing that what I'm doing is impacting somebody. with something so simple. But again, that's what great MC training, again, I talk about Mark Farrell's Silver Master Ceremonies workshop. If you haven't taken it, man, your clients are missing out.
Yeah, and jump on Facebook, by the way. Check out Rebecca's page, because they've just launched an aggressive
I saw that.
to actually do a whole bunch of workshops throughout the summer, and Vegas next year is already announced. So
yeah, that's very cool.
I think like I mentioned, I think it's confidence a lot of time. I don't think a lot of DJs are willing to have that. Forceful is not the right word, but that, well, maybe forceful is the right word, but they're not willing to maybe have that conversation that directly, I should say, with the venue manager, or even with their brides and grooms. They say, yeah, you should do this. We're not going to. Oh, okay. Well, no, that's not the right response. Okay, well, let's walk through what this will look like. Like, really try to take people through what it might look like. I mean, something as simple as, I said to people, look, when we do your grand entrance, if we're going to do some fun introductions for all your wedding party members, and they're all coming into theme songs, you want that dance floor in front of the head table, because, a lot of my couples, they want to be introduced first into the room so that they get to enjoy the introductions. So they're coming on in first. I say, look, if that space is there, then the two of you can stand in front of the head table, and as your wedding party is introduced with lots of fun, one by one with the theme song, they get to cross the dance floor, grooving, dancing, whatever. None of that's possible if it's solid tables.
Yeah.
It just isn't, except for Mark and Jasmine's wedding many years ago, when his best man did a lap dance on Grandma to I'm Too Sexy when he was introduced in, because there was no room, and it was hilarious. But that's an exception to the rule.
Oh my goodness. So you've got a great point. I think some people are afraid to step in because they feel like they're going to offend the planner or offend the banquet manager, and then they'll never have me back. But you have to stick up if you really believe in what you're talking about, and if you believe that it's the best interest for the client for everything in that event, then you need to speak up. And the reason I kind of mention that is, if your only answer to an idea is because that's the way, if that's the way we've always done it, it's the wrong answer. So if you're going to have a conversation with any other professional, you better have good reasoning. You better have good understanding.
That's right. Yeah.
To what you're doing. But if you say, well, that's how I've always done it, then you're not giving a good enough reason on what is going to happen and why you're creating what you're trying to create.
Well, then your reason is no better than the banquet manager's reason for that's how we always do it too, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. I can share a quick example. I worked a wedding in Saskatoon many years ago at the Hilton Garden Inn downtown, and I'd never worked there before. And so I'd had the bride and groom send me contact info for who they were dealing with there, because I do that. I look to have to send me contact info for all their vendors, because people that know me, I communicate with everybody ahead of time. Anyway, knowing that I'd never worked at this venue, and it was like 6.5, 7 hours away from me, I'm like, okay, I want to really I'm going to start a relationship with her ahead of time, before that final planning session where I meet her for the first time. And I did that. I created a little relationship with her via email, just some fun little things back and forth, right? Looking forward to meeting with you, yada, yada. Anyway, time came for the site visit planning meeting. I got there an hour before my couple so that I could meet banquet manager in person. She could show me the room before the couple got there. I could discuss with them how they normally do things. And we ended up flipping it to how they always did it, because she said, oh, well, we don't do that. I'm like, well, that's okay. Byron and Sarah have hired me because they didn't want just any other wedding. So let's talk about how this is going to work for them, their guests, and how this is going to really make people love this function so much more. This function here at your property.
Yeah.
And so, I really sold it to her as being, I want people to enjoy their night here at your hotel as much as possible. And this is one of the ways that we're going to make that happen. And, I have it to this day. When I followed up with her after the event, because I always do that as well, I got this remarkable testimonial from her.
Cool.
She had just never worked with somebody who took the time to show up ahead of time. Well, first of all, introduce himself. And I will say that, yes, it can be impossible to have that direct conversation about, no, that we should do it this way, if you have no relationship with the person. And if you don't have a relationship with them, start one many months before. It can be as simple as a couple of emails, but let them know that you're not a prick. I'm just trying to help out. I really look forward to working with you, not for you. Yeah, it's staging, entertainment experience. The placement of everything in a room plays into the success of an event so much. And I'm sure, I know for a fact that every single person listening in on our conversation right now has had functions where the dance hasn't been quite as good as it could have been. And I'm going to say there have been some functions that was the case because of how the room was set up.
Yeah.
And we can change that.
Yep. Yeah. And, it's kind of a great, you talk about the staging and everything. And, again, you're going to have those people that are like, well, we can't put the dance floor in the center. And ask that question, why? Why can't the dance floor be in the center? Well, because of this, this, and this. And, there's a lot of times, like, we usually help tear down tables. So they'll say, well, we can't tear down tables fast enough. Well, we got to tear tables down over there anyways.
Yeah.
Down over here. So why does it matter? I mean, how is that going to slow us down? But us, when we're at an event and there's tables that have to come down, we will help pitch in. We'll help move those tables.
Yeah.
Get bus tubs and clear tables and run tables out the door. And it's just, I mean, A, it's common courtesy, but B, again, it shows that you're not just this prick who is going to play music and let everyone else do their job. You're willing to step in and help others do their job as well. Again, for the best interest of the event, best interest of the couple, and to make sure that everything goes smooth. So there's sometimes where, like, I will ask, being a multi-op, I have some of my guys who are, they meet with their clients as they get closer to the event, and
right.
Sent me room maps before, and they said, well, here's what they have figured out. And I kind of have them troubleshoot themselves, like, okay, so tell me, how does this placement work for you? And, I'll walk through the room with them, like, okay, so if you're here and your audio is here and your lighting's here, how does that affect the dance floor? How does that affect the entire room? And I want them to start thinking about some of those things instead of me just giving the answers. And that's really what I loved about entertainment experience with Bill, is he didn't give you the answers. He made you think about a solution. And, looking at every single possibility, and even looking at everything that can go wrong. And then you think about, how do I fix it? And I think that's one of those things where DJs are afraid to do that. They're afraid to fix things. So they just do it the way it's always been done.
Yeah. Complaining is easy.
Yeah.
Fixing is a lot harder, but you'll get hired because you're the person that fixes these things.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got the YouTube feed up and running on my computer, everyone, so I haven't been commenting to this point. My bad. Some people are surprised that it's daylight here still. Isn't it daylight where you are still, Jer?
Just got dark.
Really? Oh, yeah. Like, we're like, not bad here.
Well, I mean, it's like the North Pole.
That's right. It's gonna be daylight here 24 hours a day right away. Oh, wouldn't that be terrible for doing like outdoor weddings and stuff if it was daylight, like all?
Yeah, could you imagine trying to do lighting?
Right.
Oh,
very true. Oh, somebody has commented. So you bring the bride and groom in first?
Oh, we usually do.
I'll tell you what, grand entrances, Jeremy. That should be a topic.
Let's table that one.
Yeah. Sorry to keep you waiting, but that should be a show. Let's do that. John, if you're listening in, buddy, grand entrances, that's going to be next week's show.
John's not listening. He never listens to our show.
But yeah, does anybody have any situations where they've had difficult, well, see, that's not a fair question. We've all had difficult banquet managers, I guess. Has there been a situation where you have tried to be very direct and really worked to make the situation better for the event itself? I mean, I think every DJ has had difficult banquet managers, but I guess this might be unfair of me to say, but I don't necessarily want to hear about the situations where you did nothing, because then there's nothing to talk about.
Hold on a second. Let's not just talk about banquet managers, because it's not always banquet managers.
It's true.
let's talk about photographers. You know, how many times do we have a photographer that, again, oh, I'm going to go steal them for sunset pictures? Well, I just introduced them for their first dance. You know, I mean, and pre-communication is important. So it's setting things up and communicating with them ahead of time. And we have it in the agenda. We'll even ask the bride and groom as we go through finalizations, you know, are you doing sunset pictures? Most of the time they're like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. And then we usually just say, okay, we're going to assume that you're going to do sunset pictures. So let's plan on doing that. Let's do your specialty dances, because it's still quite bright out around 8 o'clock, usually normal when this dance starts. So let's do your specialty dances. Let's do your father-daughter, your son-mother, your wedding party. Get the party started, and then you guys can sneak away and then come back. And you know, just little things like that, because then they talked to the photographer and said, oh, okay, well, this is a good time for us to sneak away. Now, if the dance starts at like 9 o'clock, then it's like, okay, let's do cake cutting. Now you guys run away and then come back after cake cutting, and we go right into toast and speeches. So again, it's also setting up and staging your agenda so it works for everybody. And again, that's where it comes into, you're not just working for yourself as a DJ, you're working for every single vendor, every single professional in that room and on that event.
Yeah. One thing I would suggest, and I remember you saying this earlier, Jeremy, and I know this is not probably necessarily what you meant, but I just don't want anyone to misinterpret when talking about room placement and how to figure that out for the best for the event. I would suggest to everybody, avoid using the position of it's.
Uh-oh. I think Dave just froze up, everybody. Dave, are you there? Are you going to sneeze? You look like you're ready to sneeze. John? I think Dave just got mugged by a moose. All right. So I have no idea where Dave was going with what he was saying. I don't even know if I'm live right now. Maybe I'm the one who froze up. But I don't even look at the YouTube, Facebook thing, so I could not even tell you. NTV. I'm going to see if I can pull it up here. DJNTV live video group. That is not it. Anyways, so as we wait for Dave to re-arrive, a couple things. Are you back? No? All right. I'm going to see if I can get you guys so I can see if I'm live or if I'm not live or whoever's live. I don't even know where I'm at. Okay. Well, anyways. So
Dave said he was going to look really good tonight, and I guess this is his way.
Yeah, that's his pose right there.
I mean, that's something.
Is he froze up? We're not froze up,
No,
right?
we're not froze up. He is. Okay. And I'm debating, should we just leave it there?
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I see.
This is even better yet.
He's back.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Dave and Dave.
Am I back?
Well, you guys might as well just talk to each other, Dave and Dave, because now where'd he go?
I'm here.
Well, what are you doing?
Well, it's kind of a lip sync thing, I suppose, going on.
Oh, sorry, John.
Well, that's quite all right.
It's all right. I was putting words in your mouth. I thought you looked like you were sneezing, and I don't know.
Let's see if I
can. Anyways, go ahead and finish your thought. Okay, so you were in this position. What were you saying right there? Go ahead and finish what you were saying.
What were my last words? Sorry.
I don't know. I got caught up. I kind of, my palms started getting sweaty because you froze up, and I'm like, oh crap, I don't know where the YouTube, I don't know where the Facebook thing is, because you usually take care of all that. So I had no idea. I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Got it. Well, all I was saying was I just wanted to clarify something that I think you had said earlier, which about, just didn't want people to misinterpret the idea that whenever you're discussing room layout, always refer to it in the context of best for the event, or in order to facilitate this moment, this would be best, yada, yada,
Yeah.
yada.
Yeah.
The I out of it, take the me out of it,
Yeah.
so that, because if you don't, then you're no quote unquote better than the photographer saying, "Oh, I need it this way," or the banquet manager saying, "We need it this way."
Right. Yeah. There's plenty of times where, the facility's like, oh, well, the DJ's usually set up over here. You can go right in that door and you can set up right there. It's like, okay, so I understand that's easy and that's convenient, but really I want to be on that side of the room, and I'm willing to go all the way around. I'm willing to go down that far hallway. I'm willing to, whatever I need to do, again, for the best interest of the event, for the best interest of the client.
Right. But I'm gonna challenge you though and say, tell you what, rather than saying I want to be over there, say, tell you what, for the event, it would be much better if my setup was there. Slight change in the words. Maybe I'm being nitpicky, but yeah,
I had one of my guys, he sent me a picture. He was in a really small room, and they overbooked it, like way too many people in this room.
oh,
Yeah. And the facilitator's like, oh, well, you can go set up over in that corner. That's where they have you positioned at. And literally, like, they had rows and rows of tables. It wasn't like round tables or anything like that. It was just like long tables. And he literally had probably 3 feet wide, so about a meter. He had about 3 feet to set up his booth, his speakers, his lighting, for him to stand behind his table. Like, he had to actually stand on the side of his table with his DJ controller, because he couldn't even fit. He couldn't get behind his table. Wow. And there was still people. So there was like his table, their table, and the people who had chairs to pull out to hit his table.
So this was one of your guys?
This is one of my DJs, yeah.
So I have to ask, like, had there been a site visit planning session that would have, like, how did that work?
You know what? I typically, once my guys have taken over the event, they typically communicate with the couple, they communicate with the facilitator, they communicate with all that. So if there was a conversation, I don't think the conversation was clear enough. I'm guessing there probably was not a conversation. And again, that's the situations you run into if you don't communicate and you don't have those conversations, either with the couple or with the facilitator, with the people who are in charge of the event, a wedding coordinator, whoever it is. If you don't communicate, you're going to be in trouble. Luckily, this bride for this upcoming weekend, one of my guys has a photo booth along with him, and the bride asked, he's like, hey, how much square footage do you need for the photo booth? I'm like, you're actually the first bride who's ever asked us that. Yeah. And you don't think about it, because no one's ever asked how much square footage do you need for the photo booth. In our contract, it says, here's the amount of space that I need for my DJ setup, or a DJ setup for your event. And I can always tell which brides read the contract and which brides don't read the contract. Most of the time, I will actually get conversations back, or an email back, saying, I sent this over to the venue. I wanted to make sure that the 20 amp power was in the, I'm like, oh yeah, because I always put it in there no matter what. But I always there's most of the time I'm telling them, oh yeah, we actually work that venue quite a bit. So I know that they have the adequate power that we need, and they know the amount of space that we need as well. So, again, it's communication's so key, and key in anything. It's key in relationships. It's key in your business. I mean, you got to communicate.
Well, and 2 points I want to make. Showing up on wedding day and having an issue with this layout of the room, too late.
Yeah.
In 99% of the time, it's way too late. If you want to actually be actively involved in making this better for your events, this is a conversation that needs to happen a month or two before at a minimum. Right.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about our planning processes before, but I'll just remind people, in my case, it's 1 to 2 months before. So that's 4 to 8 weeks before is when that site visit planning session happens. That's when these conversations have to happen. A day or two before the wedding, that's too late. You haven't done your due diligence.
Yeah.
Having said that, we've been talking about dance floor in the middle of the room. We've been, yada, yada, yada. I do want to say I have a wedding coming up next month where that was the initial approach, but after more discussion about the event, it was deemed the dance floor in front of the head table was not the ideal solution. And I'll share why. This is a brand new venue that's just opening up. We may very well be their first or second wedding in that space. It's an old barn, and where you walk in right beside this really cool custom bar they've built into the place. And then on the far wall is where the head table is going to be. Now, where you walk in, you've also come off this really cool patio they have outside. And they've also got this big overhead door that, pending the weather, they'll open up so people can kind of be in and out, that type of thing. I initially went at it for my standard approach, right? Dance floor front of the head table. Yeah, we'll move some tables if we have to, what have you. But then it was brought about that, okay, well, bars at the back of the room, all those doors that go outside of the patio are at the back of the room. Where is the party maybe going to go because of the physical things about this property that we can't change?
Right.
Well, the party may actually slide back there. Well, then I want to be there, right? So now I'm going to be, head table is going to be on the far side of the room, and I'm going to be right when you walk in the room. Now, it's not a huge space, so essentially I'll be across what is going to be the dance floor for the head. We're going to have to move some tables, but some guest tables will remain in front of the head table when the dance starts. But, this is very venue dependent. So don't always think, as I did going into that space, the dance floor always needs to be right in front of the head table. Sometimes there's another solution because of things about the space that are unique to that space. So just be open to that.
I love the fact that you're talking about the bar, and sometimes you can't move things.
Yeah.
So one of the things we've ran into this a couple times where, the bar is actually over in another room. It's like way over on the other side. And so we basically talked to a bride and groom and said, okay, that's, I understand that this is how the facility's set up. I would recommend, for the success of the bar, for success of your dance, people being engaged, I would recommend adding a bar, having them bring a mobile bar into the room and doing that inside as well. Because otherwise, if they're down the hall, they can't hear announcements. They can't hear when this is happening, when that's going on. They can't hear the music the way it should be heard. And they can't see you interacting. So they're not going to engage with you. And if you can't engage with people, then the bride and groom or all the other people who are in the room are like, gosh, this room is empty. But really, people are just getting a drink. They're socializing. That's what people do at a wedding. And I always ask the question, ask the bride and groom, what's your vision of fun? Because everybody's vision is different. And a bride's vision is dancing with her friends and having so much fun on the dance floor, where the groom's vision might be, oh, just having a drink with my buds. That's a whole different vision of fun. And so you can't have fun here and fun here. You have to incorporate it together. You have to, again, encourage them to maybe bring in a mobile bar or an additional bar. So that way everything is happening in one area.
Yeah. And it's funny, you make me think of an event I had last fall. It was a wedding, and it was in a venue I'd never worked before. And when I first saw the room, I was like, oh my goodness, this is a room whose length is literally at least 4 times, if not 5 times, what its width is.
Oh, man.
So it's a really long, skinny room at this bizarrely expensive venue, like just, this 100-year-old building, really spectacular, but it's got this silly, awkward room. So we discussed a lot, having the dance floor in the middle, but the bar in this case was, like you mentioned, just outside the main room. And it's not a movable bar. It's this massively built, big, mahogany. It's spectacular. I wouldn't want to rob the guests of the experience of ordering at that bar. So the bar was outside of this room, but outside of the very end of the room. So I was nervous about it, but dance floor ended up getting set up at the end of the room. So the furthest guest table would have been, 120, 140 feet from me. Like, it was long. Wow. And I was worried about it. But I knew the bar was going to be right beside the dance floor. Even though it was through a doorway, the bar was going to be right there. And it turned into probably a top 5, top 3 for dance floors at a wedding I've had at a wedding last year. It was unreal. So, well, there you have it. Working with banquet managers, be kind, put their needs first.
Yeah.
No, put the needs of the event first.
There you go. There you go.
But do try to put their needs first as well. Start relationship building many months earlier on, like Jeremy said. That's key.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess my final thoughts. I loved seeing you in your mid sneeze mode when you froze. That was pretty sweet. No, I again, I think it just comes down to communication. Communicate way in advance. Communicate with the place maybe you haven't been before. Ask for layouts of the room. Not just don't just ask them for. Send me the room with how the tables are going to look for 230 people. Send me the room.
Yeah.
And then talk to a bride and groom and break things down with them. If you're not familiar with the venue, if you know a venue very well, then be willing to work with the venue, be willing to work with the couple, and be willing to work with every single moment that you're going to create for that event.
Yeah, very true. And it's on my checklist. Take photos of every event after you've set up before guests arrive. And don't just take photos of your pretty stuff. I take wide shots of the room with the idea in mind that if I ever work at this venue again and I need to show somebody what ideal layout looks like, I have the pictures. And I archive them and I catalog them. And okay, I'm a little behind on that, but I archive them.
Throw on my phone. All right, Dave. Well, it was nice seeing you again this week, and I'll see you next. What?
A little small tip, by the way. When I archive those photos, I name the file according to how many guests there were, how many people at the head table. By the way.
The end.
The end. That was a way flatter moment than I wanted it to be. Anyway, thanks everyone. Thanks Jeremy for putting up with me in my vehicle tonight outside the venue that I was hoping to come to you live from. But
it's crazy. It is crazy that you're still daylight. That's yeah. I'm pitch dark.
Really? Oh wow. Yeah. See, sun only officially set here like 35, 40 minutes ago. So we still have a lot of that light hanging around.
Yeah, crazy. All right, John. We're out.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for watching. See ya.